Hey, welcome back to part 3 of our video series on strategy. So we've talked about what is the value of a strategy, why do we need that for an integrated campaign, and then we've talked about how do you actually create your own strategy statement. Now I want to talk in part 3 about articulating the big idea. Now this is pretty important because a lot of students will come to me and say, I'm confused, I can only have one sentence to articulate what the idea is, to say, this is my strategy, but I have so much to say about it, and I'm still trying to figure out specifics, and I want to go into more detail. Well, when you're doing the big idea, that's your chance to kind of do an elevator pitch and explain, hey, here's what the value of my strategy is, and here's how it's going to come to life. So how do you do this? The first thing is you take a look at that strategy statement and say, what does this actually mean? I know that you spent some time stringing together all these words, you've got an idea in your head, but sometimes it doesn't always come through crystal clear. So you need to be persuasive, you need to be the salesperson and explain to your internal team, hey, here's what we're actually trying to do here. And until you are convinced that everyone you're telling this pitch to can quickly grasp the idea and get behind it, that means you probably haven't mastered your strategy statement yet. You really need to make sure it resonates with them and they all buy in. Then you can look at it and say, hey, how do the ideas in the statement actually come alive? You might have a well-written statement, but if you can't begin to explain at a high level, here's kind of what I'm thinking. It's really hard to be successful at using the strategy to get people on board and share a vision. So let's take the Patty's Pizza example that we talked about before. We know that Patty's Pizza is trying to drive awareness because some people don't know about the place. We know that we want to talk about it kind of being family friendly and that it's kind of inexpensive. But one of the key things about it is it serves pizza, right? So I could say, if you really want to drive awareness and get people excited about it, have people experience the pizza. Have them a sample slice of the pizza. That's the best way people can understand what is the product that's being sold. What is the quality of the service of our restaurant? So that's using event marketing. So as part of my big idea, as I share that strategy statement, I say, employing event marketing really will help this idea come alive and let people truly experience how great the quality product Patty's Pizza is that we offer. Before we're getting into identifying specific tactics, I think it's also really important to make sure that you have some thread that works its way through the strategy statement. It's connecting all of your ideas together. Because remember, we talked about the importance of an integrated marketing campaign. It all has kind of one shared story. So if I can't pick up what that thread is when I see your strategy statement really the first time I read it, that might suggest you need to go back and tinker with it some more. A good strategy statement should make it fairly clear, or at least it's giving you a really good springboard so you can do your elevator pitch and explain, hey, here's why this works. Here's how Patty Pizza is going to be consistent, whether I'm doing advertising or event marketing or content marketing. Here's the unique idea that's going to hold it all together. We talked about it being expensive. Maybe I'm going to emphasize Patty's Pizza can be inexpensive, but still really high quality. And it's, wide variety of choices of toppings and quality menu items is what makes it appeal to the whole family. Everyone can choose what they like. So you think back on what you've committed to with your strategy statement, you really start fleshing out that story and make sure there is some kind of common thread that does hold it all together. What are some of the high-level ideas that can guide the creation of specific tactics? So when we talk about high-level ideas, that can mean a number of different things. Let's go to this next slide. So the first one here says, what are different initiatives that could serve this client? So in the example I was saying on the last slide, we were talking about event marketing, so people can actually sample the product. If you've taken other marketing classes at this point, you've probably been exposed to what's the difference between advertising, content marketing, PR, sales, event marketing, retail efforts. There's all kinds of different promotion efforts that we can do. You might not have been exposed to these yet. You could be a brand new marketing student, but it's good to understand that within the 4 Ps, where we've got product, price, distribution, and promotion. Within the promotion quadrant, there's a number of different subtypes of promotional marketing. We talked about that in one of our earliest videos. You might want to go back and review that one. So, which of these initiatives really help with this particular campaign? That's something that would be good to talk about as you're talking about the big idea. Which promotional channels serve the respective initiatives? So if I'm going to be doing advertising, am I going to be doing more traditional and leaning on TV and print? Or maybe I'm going to use more of digital channels on like search or display or mobile? Those things could depend on like how much budget I have. Traditional is much more expensive than digital. It could depend on whether I want to get people on the go. Then it would make sense to do more digital. It could depend on if I'm trying to reach a large number of people. In that case, traditional is going to get me much more reach and frequency. There's all kinds of ways that you can think about this, but you should be able to defend some of those decisions, and that's part of the story you're telling with your big idea. What media platforms with each promotional channel would be appropriate. So again, this is getting a little perilously close to talking about specific tactics. I'm not asking you to do that right now, but there is a big difference. Say like you want to do content marketing on social media. It's going to be different if you're doing it on Facebook versus Instagram. And now's a great time to talk about, hey, here's who I think my audience is and why this particular platform serves their needs and works really well with this particular strategy. I think if you start talking a lot about, things such as media platforms, it does lead the question, hey, does this project need a media plan? Obviously, if you're doing advertising, you would choose to do that. Okay. Now we kind of think a little bit about the target audience. Ideally, when you did your research, you thought about this information. If you understand what segments become which audience you're targeting, that will help a lot in understanding who you're trying to reach with this particular campaign. But the research may have told us there are unique challenges the client's facing at this time. That means they might be different than what we normally go after for this brand. It's important that you are able to explain why you're doing something different. It's important that you show how it connects to this strategy and how it all fits together for this campaign. You should really be, uncovering what are some of the specific details that are going to impact your tactical choices, because, like we said before, different people, use different platforms or different media choices within each of those platforms based upon how they operate and what aligns well with different lifestyles and different media consumption choices. If you've taken a class before in social media or in content marketing, you've actually created a persona before, but some of that'll be brand new. The idea of a persona is just thinking about, hey, it's not enough to determine like segments or even a target audience, but rather we want to create an actual imaginary character that reflects who it is we're trying to target with this work. Having that kind of information really helps direct the campaign and really make sure that whatever marketing we're doing is really specific to the person that we're hoping to receive this message. Talking about all of these things really makes sense when you're explaining the big idea. It's fleshing out the strategy. It's giving a bigger picture. It helps us move forward. Finally, we should be talking about like creative messaging. We're not yet building out the specific tactics, but we can start thinking about like what kind of keywords would actually connect with our audience. What kind of tone? Are we serious? Are we more relaxed? Are we just trying to explain some ideas, or are we being persuasive, trying to convince people? All of those things really can help us think about what the approach is going to be, what that big idea is, because the style and the tone of all of our content, it's going to make a difference, and it can help your internal team buy into what you're trying to accomplish. What are some creative elements? Are we really going to be like focusing on things that are bright and colorful? Are we going to be thinking more subdued and focus more on the specific facts and figures? Does it have a certain emotional tone with the way that things are presented visually? If you're finding that a lot of creative ideas are popping up before you've even committed to tactics, it might make sense to do a creative brief. That's pretty standard for doing an advertising campaign, but it could work for other kinds of promotional initiatives as well. So some of these things are good to think about, but at the end of the day, the big idea is you're making your pitch to an internal team. You're helping them understand the bigger picture. And if you're doing an assignment in one of your classes where they say, "Hey, what is your strategy?" Don't just share your strategy statement. Make sure you take a couple of paragraphs after that and explain, so what does that mean? At a high level, like, what am I trying to accomplish? And make sure you've really built your case before you jump in and start talking about tactics. All right, well, thanks for joining us on the videos on strategy. We'll look for you in our last and final video on tactics.